17 when this happened, and at the time, I babysat, or sat for almost anybody my mom knew. This wasn't even a real babysitting job. It was more like house sitting for a few hours, while my mom's co-worker and her husband went to a dinner party. Their daughter was sleeping over at a friend's house, so all I had to do was stay there, feed their dog at 8, and make sure nobody came to the house while they were gone. They lived in a newer neighborhood about 20 minutes from us. I had been there once before, so I knew the layout. Front door into a small foyer, living room ahead, kitchen in back, and a sliding door to the patio looking out onto a fenced yard. Before they left, Mrs. Harlan showed me where the dog food was and how to lock the patio door, because it stuck unless you lifted it slightly. Mr. Harlan said, "If anybody knocks, don't answer unless it's us. We're not expecting any deliveries." For the first hour, everything was normal. I fed their golden retriever, Max, and sat on the couch watching videos while he slept on the rug. The house was quiet enough that I could hear the dishwasher and cars passing outside. At 8:45, there was a knock at the front door. Not loud, just 3 quick, firm knocks. Max lifted his head and stared toward the foyer. He didn't bark, which actually made me more uneasy. I muted the TV and waited, thinking whoever it was would leave. Instead, there was another knock, slower this time. I looked through the peephole. A man was standing on the porch, wearing a dark green work shirt with a patch over one pocket. He had tan work pants, boots, and a clipboard tucked under one arm. Parked at the curb was a white pickup with a company logo on the side. I kept the door shut and asked who it was. He stepped closer and said, "Pest control. We're doing follow-up treatments on this side of the street because of the wasp nest issue." I told him the homeowners weren't there. "That's fine," he said right away. "I just need access to the side yard and back fence line. Should take 2 minutes." Something about how quickly he answered made me hesitate. I asked if the Harlans knew he was coming. "They should," he said. "We did the original treatment last month. I've got them on the list tonight because one of the neighbors reported activity." I looked at the truck through the glass beside the door. There really was a logo on it. There were also 2 plastic tanks in the bed and a hose reel. Still, I didn't open the door. I said, "Can you come back another time?" He smiled, but only for a second. "Normally, yeah, but I've already got the chemical mixed for this section. If I have to come back, they'll probably get charged twice." That was the first thing he said that felt like pressure. I told him I needed to call the homeowners first. His expression changed just slightly. "Go ahead," he said. "I'll wait." I stepped back and called Mrs. Harlan. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. I tried Mr. Harlan. Same thing. When I looked through the peephole again, the man was no longer standing at the door. He had walked down the porch steps and was looking toward the side of the house. That made me not want to open the door at all. I called out that I couldn't let him in without confirming it first. He turned back and said, "You don't have to let me in. I just need the gate unlocked." There was a gate on the left side of the house that led to the backyard. It was latched from the inside. I told him I wasn't comfortable doing that. He came back up 1 step and lowered his voice a little. "Listen, I'm trying to help them out here. If there's a nest near the back fence and your dog gets into it later, that's on me for not taking care of it." The weirdest part was that he knew there was a dog. I hadn't mentioned Max. Maybe he saw the dog bowl by the kitchen. Maybe he guessed. I said I still wasn't opening the gate. For a few seconds, he didn't answer. Then he nodded once and said, "All right." He walked back to the truck and climbed in. I stood at the door, watching through the peephole, expecting him to drive away. He didn't. The truck stayed idling at the curb. After maybe 20 seconds, the passenger side door opened, and another man got out. I hadn't even realized anyone else was in the truck. He was older, heavier, wearing the same green work shirt. He didn't come to the door. He just stood by the truck, facing the house. The first man got out again. and walked toward the driveway instead of the porch. He stopped near the garage and looked up at the roofline, then toward the side yard gate. My stomach dropped because it no longer felt like a salesman trying too hard. It felt like two people checking entry points. I backed away from the door and went straight to the kitchen to make sure the patio door was locked. It was. I checked the laundry room door to the garage too. While I was doing that, Max finally started barking. Not at the front of the house, at the backyard. I turned and saw him stiffen, staring through the dark glass of the sliding door. I moved over carefully and looked through the narrow gap in the blinds. The first man was in the backyard. He was standing near the back fence, turned partly away from the house, holding something long in one hand. For 1 second, I thought it was the spray wand from the truck. Then he looked toward the house, and I realized it wasn't a spray wand. It was a pry bar. I jerked back from the window so fast I hit the counter. Max was barking full force now, throwing himself at the glass. I grabbed my phone and called Mrs. Harlan again. This time, she answered. I started talking too fast at first, but when I said, "There's a man in your backyard and another one in the truck," her whole tone changed. She told me not to say anything through the doors, not to go near the windows, and to take Max and get into the upstairs bathroom because it had the smallest window in the house. I got Max by the collar and ran upstairs with him while she stayed on the phone. As I reached the top of the stairs, I heard the patio door handle downstairs rattle once, then again, harder. The bathroom was at the end of the hall. I got inside, locked it, and sat on the floor with Max pressed against my legs. Mrs. Harlan said they were turning around and were only 10 minutes away. From upstairs, I could hear movement below me. Once I heard the side gate hit the fence. Once I heard the front door handle move. Max growled every time there was a sound, then went quiet again. Then everything stopped. A minute later, I heard a car pull into the driveway. Then another. I looked out the tiny bathroom window and saw Mr. Harlan's SUV coming in fast enough that the front dipped when he braked. The white truck was already pulling away from the curb. By the time I came downstairs, the truck was gone. Mr. Harlan checked the yard and found the side gate forced open from the outside. Near the back fence, in the grass, he found a yellow-handled pry bar. The company name on the truck had been real, but when he called them the next morning, they told him no one had been sent to that address, and no one in that branch drove a white pickup like the one I described. I never found out who those men really were. What stayed with me was how normal the whole thing looked at first. The truck, the uniforms, the clipboard. They had shown up with a reason to be invited onto the property, and when that didn't work, they tried another way. That's the part I still think about whenever somebody knocks and claims to be there for routine work. Not whether they look real, whether they're hoping you won't ask enough questions. I was home alone the first time he came to the door. It was a Saturday afternoon in early December, one of those gray winter days where it gets dark earlier than it should, and the whole neighborhood feels quieter than normal. My parents had gone to visit my aunt for the day, and my younger brother was at a basketball tournament 2 towns over. I had stayed home because I was getting over a cold and didn't feel like sitting in a gym all afternoon. Our house was in a pretty normal suburban neighborhood. Not isolated, but not packed tightly together either. The houses all had long driveways, small front porches, and enough space between them that if somebody was standing at your front door, your neighbors probably wouldn't notice unless they happened to look outside. I spent most of the afternoon in the living room watching random stuff on TV and half dozing on the couch. Around 3:40, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I checked my phone first. No texts, no missed calls. The bell rang again, followed by 2 quick knocks. I went to the front door and looked through the peephole. A man was standing on the porch, wearing a dark delivery jacket and holding one of those small handheld scanners. There was a brown cardboard box tucked under his arm. He looked normal enough, mid-30s maybe, ball cap, gloves, nothing weird about him. I opened the inside door but kept the storm door closed. He lifted the box slightly and said, "Package for the Harrisons." That was our last name. For a second, that was enough to make it seem legitimate. I asked who it was from. He looked down at the label. No sender listed, just says signature required. That was the first thing that made me pause. We ordered things online all the time, but my parents usually knew when something was coming. Also, the box didn't have any major carrier logo on it. No UPS, FedEx, nothing. Just a shipping label and some tape. I said, "My parents aren't home." He nodded right away, like that wasn't a problem. "If you're over 18, you can sign." I told him I wasn't comfortable signing for something I didn't know anything about. He looked mildly annoyed, but only for a second. "Then I can leave a notice and come back tomorrow," he said. "But it's a perishable item, so if nobody signs today, it'll probably get returned." That part made no sense. If it was really a perishable delivery, why was he carrying it around in the cold with no marked truck outside? I glanced past him down the driveway and toward the curb. There was no delivery van, just an older silver sedan parked across the street facing the wrong direction. He noticed me looking. "My truck's around the corner," he said quickly. That was too quick. I said, "Can I just call my mom first?" He smiled a little, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Sure." I shut the inside door and stepped back. I didn't lock anything because the storm door was still closed, and I only planned to be gone for a second while I called my mom. She didn't answer the first time. By the time I looked through the peephole again, the man had stepped off the porch. I expected him to be walking to his truck. Instead, he was standing at the edge of the driveway, looking toward the side of our house. Not at the street, not at his scanner, at the side yard. I stayed there watching him for maybe 10 seconds. Then he looked back at the front door, noticed me in the peephole somehow, and lifted one hand like he was asking if I was done with the call. I opened the inside door again, still keeping the storm door between us. "My mom didn't answer," I said. He sighed and held the box out a little. "I've got 6 more stops. Can you at least confirm the address?" I looked down at the label through the glass. It had our address on it. Name spelled right. Even the zip code was right. That bothered me more than if it had been wrong, because it meant whoever put that label on the box knew exactly where we lived. He tapped the scanner with his gloved finger. "I just need verbal confirmation it belongs here." I should have just said no and shut the door. Instead, I hesitated, trying to think of the safest way to deal with it without overreacting. That was when he asked, "You home by yourself?" There was a pause after he said it, like even he realized it was a bad question. Then he added, "Just asking, because sometimes I can leave it if there's another adult coming back soon." I said, "No, my parents are coming back soon." His expression didn't change much, but something about the way he looked at me did, like he was recalculating. Then he nodded once and said, "All right, I'll mark it undeliverable." He turned and walked off the porch. I watched him through the front window. Instead of heading around the corner where he claimed his truck was, he crossed the street toward the silver sedan. He didn't get in, though. He leaned down to the driver's window for a second, like he was talking to someone inside. That was enough for me to finally call my dad. He answered right away. I told him there had been some weird guy at the door with a package I didn't recognize, and now he was talking to someone in a car across the street. My dad immediately told me to lock every door and not open them again for anyone. By the time I hung up and checked the front window, the sedan was gone. So was the man. I went around the house checking the locks anyway. Front door, back slider, mudroom, all locked. Then I pulled the blinds shut in the living room and kitchen because I suddenly hated how visible the inside of the house felt. For about 20 minutes, nothing happened. I started to feel stupid again. Then there was a knock at the back door. Not the front. The back. 3 slow knocks on the glass. I froze in the kitchen, staring at the door. The blind over it was half open, and through the gap I could see only the patio and the dark reflection of the room behind me. Another knock. Then a voice. Delivery notice. Same guy. Calmer now, almost amused. I just need you to take the slip. I didn't move. He tapped once more on the glass, louder this time. Then he said, "You already confirmed the address." That line made my whole body go cold, because I hadn't. Not really. He was trying to make it sound like I had agreed to something. I backed out of the kitchen and went upstairs to my parents' bedroom, because it had the best view of the backyard. From the corner of the window, through the blinds, I could see him standing on our patio, with the box still under one arm. He wasn't looking at the door anymore. He was looking up at the windows, at the house, like he was deciding what to do next. Then I saw something worse. The silver sedan was back. Parked in our driveway now, nose pointed toward the garage. No one got out, but the engine was still running. I called my dad again and told him the man was in the backyard now, and there was a second person in a car in the driveway. He said they were already on their way home and told me to stay upstairs and stay quiet. The man at the back door didn't knock again after that. Instead, he walked slowly across the patio, paused near the edge of the yard, and looked toward the gate on the side fence. Then he disappeared out of view. For a second, I thought maybe he was leaving. Then I heard the side gate latch move. He was trying the side entrance from the backyard to the front. I ran into my room, grabbed the aluminum baseball bat I kept in the closet from high school softball, and went back to my parents' room. My hands were shaking so badly, I had trouble holding my phone and the bat at the same time. A minute later, I heard the front doorknob move downstairs. Once, then twice. Then the sound of someone trying a key or thin piece of metal against the lock. I remember that part very clearly, because it was so deliberate. No pounding, no yelling, none of the dramatic stuff you expect in a story like this. Just someone quietly working on the front door like they had time. Then it stopped. I heard a car pull into the driveway fast enough that gravel kicked up underneath it. My parents. The silver sedan reversed out almost immediately. By the time my dad got inside, the other car was already halfway down the street, and the man from the porch was gone. My dad ran around the side yard and backyard with my mom calling after him, but there was no one there. The only thing left behind was the package. It was sitting on the patio by the back door, still sealed. My dad took one look at it and carried it straight to the garage without opening it. When he later cut it open with gloves on, there was nothing inside except newspaper and a chunk of broken concrete to give it weight. No return address, no receipt, nothing. Just enough to make it feel real from a distance. That's the part that stayed with me. Not that someone came to the door pretending to deliver something, that the package itself was just a prop. It only existed to make me stand there longer, answer questions, and second-guess my instincts, while somebody else waited nearby to see if I was alone long enough for it to be worth trying something else. I still don't answer the door unless I know exactly who's coming. And if someone says they have a package I didn't order, I don't care how real the label looks. I'm not opening anything. I was 18 when this happened, and it's the reason I don't open the door for strangers, no matter how upset they seem. My parents had gone to a retirement party, and my younger brother was staying at a friend's house after a baseball tournament. I had the house to myself until close to midnight. That wasn't unusual. I had been home alone plenty of times before, and our neighborhood was quiet enough that nothing ever really happened there. It was one of those suburban neighborhoods where every house had the same basic layout. Front porch, side gate, fenced backyard. People mostly kept to themselves, but everybody recognized everybody else's cars. That Friday, I spent most of the evening in the living room watching a movie and answering texts. Around 9:30, I locked the front door, checked the back slider, and turned on the porch light. After that, I made tea and went upstairs for a while. At 10:07, the doorbell rang. Not a normal quick press either. Whoever it was held it long enough that the sound seemed to drag through the whole house. I checked my phone first. No text from my parents. No missed calls. The bell rang again. Then came 3 fast knocks. I went downstairs and looked through the peephole. There was a woman standing on the porch. She looked to be in her 30s, wearing a dark coat and holding her phone. Her hair was messy, and even through the peephole I could tell she looked panicked. She kept glancing over her shoulder toward the street. I didn't open the door. I just called through it and asked if she was okay. She looked straight at the peephole and said, "I'm so sorry. I know this is weird, but I'm looking for my daughter." Her voice was shaky enough that my first instinct was to believe her. She said her daughter was 8, that they had been at a house a few streets over, and that the girl had run off after an argument. Then she said, "I thought I saw her come through your side yard. Can I please just check your backyard?" I told her I was home alone and couldn't open the door. The second I said that, I wished I hadn't. She stepped closer and said, "Please, I'm not asking to come inside. I just need to see if she's back there. She's wearing a red sweatshirt." I looked past her toward the street. There was an SUV idling at the curb with the headlights off. I hadn't noticed it from upstairs. I asked her what street she lived on. She answered too quickly. "Willow Lane." We didn't have a Willow Lane anywhere near our neighborhood. I said, "I can look from inside." Her face changed for a second. Not angry, exactly. Just flatter. Then she nodded and said, "Okay, just do it fast, please." I left the door and went through the kitchen to the sliding glass door. The backyard was dark, except for the motion light over the patio, which turned on when I approached. I could see the fence, the shed, and the back corner near the gate. Nothing was there. I went back to the front door and told her I didn't see anyone. She was no longer standing directly in front of it. She had moved to the edge of the porch, leaning slightly to look past the house toward the side gate. That made my stomach tighten. I said, "She's not back there." The woman turned back toward me and said, "Could you unlock the side gate just so I can check? I think she might have hidden behind the shed." I told her no. Then she lowered her voice and said, "If she's in your yard and something happens to her because you wouldn't let me look, I won't be able to live with that." That was the moment any sympathy I had left started to disappear. I stepped back from the door and called my mom. She didn't answer. I called my dad. Also, no answer. When I looked through the peephole again, the woman was gone from the porch. Then I heard the latch on the side gate move. Very softly, but enough. I ran to the kitchen and turned off the light so I could see outside better. The gate was on the left side of the yard, partly hidden by the fence. From where I stood, I could see only a sliver of it through the blinds. The motion light came on again, flooding part of the patio, but not the gate itself. Then I saw movement, not the woman. Someone taller. A man in dark clothes, standing just inside the side yard near the gate. He definitely was not an 8-year-old girl in a red sweatshirt. I stepped back so fast, I hit the counter. At the same time, the woman knocked on the front door again. 3 hard knocks this time. Then she called out, "Did you check the shed?" Like she was trying to keep me at the front of the house while someone else moved in back. I grabbed my phone and texted both of my parents at once. "Someone is in the yard. Come home now." Then I took my phone upstairs. I went into my parents' bedroom because it overlooked both the front street and part of the backyard. From the corner of the window, through the blinds, I could see the SUV still parked at the curb. I could also see the woman now standing at the bottom of our driveway, no longer pretending to be frantic. Then the motion light in the backyard clicked off. A few seconds later, something tapped against the kitchen glass. Once, then again. Slow and deliberate. I crouched below the bedroom window and called my dad again. This time he answered. I told him everything as quickly as I could, and his voice changed immediately. He said they were already leaving and told me to stay upstairs with the bedroom door locked. I did that, but I kept watching from the edge of the window. The woman moved back toward the porch. A minute later, I saw the front doorknob move from below, just enough that the porch light reflected off the metal. Then she stepped away. The man in the backyard never fully came into view again. I only caught small movements near the fence line, and once a shadow passing across the patio door. What finally made them leave was my neighbor. 2 houses down, an older man named Mr. Carlin took his dog out late every night. At 10:21, his floodlight came on across the side yards, and a second after that, his dog started barking. Loud, non-stop barking aimed toward our property line. The woman on the porch looked toward the sound immediately. Then the SUV's headlights flashed once. That was apparently some kind of signal, because within seconds, she walked quickly down the driveway, got into the passenger seat, and the vehicle pulled away. At almost the exact same time, the side gate hit the fence with a dull metal sound, and whatever had been in the backyard was gone. My parents got home less than 10 minutes later. My dad checked the yard and found muddy footprints below the kitchen window and fresh scrape marks around the side gate latch, like someone had been working it with a tool. When he asked Mr. Carlin the next day if he had seen anyone, he said he noticed an SUV parked with its lights off and a woman standing on our porch, but he assumed she was a relative until his dog started barking toward our yard. What I think about most now is how close I came to opening that door just because someone sounded desperate. It wasn't just a random lie. It was built to force a choice. Either help a panicked mother look for a missing child, or live with the idea that maybe there really was a little girl outside and you refused. And while you're standing there feeling guilty, somebody else is already moving around the side of the house.